Sports twice an hour.
Newstalk, KGVO, AM 1290 and 101.5 FM.
You're listening to Montana Morning with Peter Christian.
Montana's refugee resettlement issue goes national. Good morning, everyone. It's Montana Morning. It's Wednesday, June 15th, 2016. Sky is partly cloudy. It's really a pretty morning out there, and we've got 46 degrees in Missoula right now. Our newscast this morning sponsored by Selway Armory on Stockyard Road. More guns and ammo than anyone in Missoula. The best prices in Montana. Montana's premier firearms dealer. The debate over Syrian refugees in Montana was brought into the national spotlight this week when former presidential candidate and Texas Governor Rick Perry brought up the topic on Fox News.
If they need to be moved out of areas where there's real issues in the Middle East, we need to be working with our Middle Eastern partners over there. Saudi Arabia can build refugee camps and pay for them rather than moving them to Bozeman, Montana. I was up in Montana this last week, and their governor is in favor of moving those individuals in there. And I think the people of Montana are going to stand up and say, no, we're not.
KGVO News reached out to Governor Bullock's office for a response, but has not yet received one. Republican gubernatorial candidate Greg Gianforte, though, explained exactly where he stands.
I called for a full halt of Obama's Syrian refugee program on day one. Unvetted Syrian refugees should not be resettled here in Montana. Unlike our current governor, I would stand up and defend Montana's security.
In the past, Governor Bullock has expressed openness to taking Syrian refugees, while many counties have argued against the idea over public safety concerns. Montana's refugee policy will undoubtedly be on the short list of issues under consideration to voters in November. After the massacre of 49 people and the wounding of dozens of others at the Pulse nightclub in Orlando, Florida this past weekend, the cry immediately began again from pundits and politicians to restrict the ownership of certain types of firearms. Gary Marbett, president of the Montana Shooting Sports Association and author of many of Montana's gun laws, weighed in on the subject.
The truth is, this happened in one of those very dangerous gun-free zones where only the victims are disarmed and the perpetrators are never disarmed. And it was perpetrated by a Muslim using firearms that he'd purchased through the background checks that all the antis are clamoring for.
Marbett said the term assault rifle actually refers to a weapon towed behind a vehicle to breach fortified positions. He said gun control advocates have appropriated the term to vilify certain types of firearms.
They've stolen that term and applied it to common everyday rifles, or what we sometimes call modern sporting rifles or homeland defense rifles, in order to demonize them and make them sound as if they have behavior, in order to try and persuade the uninformed that there's something inherently bad in them.
Marbett said he encourages all gun owners to be familiar with state and federal laws regarding firearms and to abide by them. On the other side of that argument, Missoula's Heidi Kendall, volunteer for the Montana chapter of Moms Demand Action for Gun Sense in America, said the issue she sees as most problematic in keeping guns out of the wrong hands is that of inadequate background checks.
What I have been working for is expanding background checks, because background checks are known to make communities safer by keeping guns out of the hands of people who shouldn't have them, like terrorists and people with criminal records.
Kendall said there's a loophole in the Brady Bill law that can allow people to purchase guns without undergoing a background check.
If you buy a gun in a gun store that has a federal firearms license, then you do go through a background check, but the background check loophole that we talk about is that at gun shows and on the internet, guns can be purchased without a background check.
Kendall said a proposed ordinance is before the Missoula City Council to require a background check, a more extensive background check for guns sold in Missoula, and will be discussed at a committee hearing later today. The National Weather Service says a preliminary storm survey determined a tornado that struck the east-central Montana town of Baker over the weekend was an F3, matching the strongest tornadoes ever recorded in the state. The tornado was on the ground for about 10 minutes, traveled about a half mile, destroying 6 homes and damaging 50 others. Several people were injured. EF3 tornadoes carry wind speeds from 135 to 165 miles per hour. Saturday's tornado, which formed over Baker Lake, threw debris like all-terrain vehicles, freezers, and nearby park gazebo into the lake. The Billings Gazette reports one witness reported seeing a couple of cows thrown into the water. We have cows. Fallon County Disaster and Emergency Services Coordinator Chuck Lee said the lake is closed to boating, fishing, and swimming while it's cleaned and tested for contamination. The family of a woman who was found severely burned on the Crow Indian Reservation 2 months ago has identified the victim. The Billings Gazette reports the family identified the woman yesterday in a news release as 28-year-old Roylyn Rides Horse. The release said she's been at a Salt Lake City burn center and seeks donations to help in her recovery. The woman was found April 17th in a field near the border between Northern Cheyenne and Crow reservations with burns over most of her body. Crow Senator Sean Reelbird says doctors told the woman she had walked 3 miles before collapsing. The FBI and the Bureau of Indian Affairs have declined to comment on the case, citing an ongoing investigation. Missoula police are searching for suspects in a series of parking meter break-ins that occurred early Monday morning. Public Police Public Information Officer Travis Welsh has more.
About 10:50, we received a walk-up complaint from a citizen who indicated they were having trouble with parking meters near City Hall and thought that they may have been tampered with. An officer went and examined a few of the meters and found out that they had been broken into and the money inside was missing.
8 parking meters were initially found broken into, and then another report came in.
We contacted the parking commission, who came over and secured the meters, and then later advised us that they had also discovered that one of their parking kiosks in the 100 block of West Alder had been damaged. That was about 40 minutes later, around 11:30.
Police have a good estimate of the amount of money stolen and are currently searching for any surveillance video that may feature the thief. Anyone with information about this crime is asked to call Crime Stoppers at 721-4444. Montana Governor Steve Bullock has been named the new chairman of the Western Governors Association. Bullock previously was the group's vice chair. He was elevated to the chairmanship yesterday, the final day of the group's meeting in Jackson, Wyoming. The Montana Democrat succeeds Wyoming Republican Governor Matt Mead in leading the Association of Governors from 19 western states and 3 U.S. territories. Bullock says his chairman's initiative will be improving forest and rangeland management. His term with the association is 1 year, assuming he's reelected as governor in November. And finally, Hastings Entertainment announced this week it was filing for Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection. There are 6 Hastings stores throughout Montana. Although the stores are still open, there are still some significant changes that could impact consumers. KGVO News reached out to Hastings for a statement, but no one was willing to comment. In an open letter from Hastings President Jim Litwack, the public is warned, quote, that all gift cards will expire on July 13th. The company will no longer be renting games, and Hastings will no longer accept nor honor customer deposits for future movie purchases. Our News Talk time now, 6:13.
Newstalk, KGVO.
Missoula's official weather station.
Partly to mostly cloudy skies today with a chance of showers during the late afternoon. High temperatures will be below normal as we stay in the low 60s. Rain likely this evening. I'm meteorologist Brooke Foster for Missoula's KECI 13.